Welcome back to SAMexpert TV. And today I have, as a few weeks ago, again with me, our cloud champion, the man who slashes Microsoft bills in half, Stefan Denk. And we're back into the subject of reducing Azure bills, Microsoft Azure bills. And it's a very interesting topic that Stefan came up with today, which is, Stefan, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking today about Azure Sentinel and
Yes.
log analytics. And I would like to start with, I think, the most important question, which is why we chose this topic. What is, across the enterprise clients, how important financially is the Sentinel and log analytics?
So your mileage may, of course, vary, but we have seen a pattern where we often see storage actually being the single biggest cost item. So I think we should do another one of these days about storage, managed disks especially, because there are a lot of mistakes made. People don't really understand what the new SKUs coming out there lately mean, what they can do there. So would be a good follow-up on. And then you would think, hey, virtual machines should be close if it's now Kubernetes or regular servers. But actually, we regularly see security related costs coming in second. And this is, at the end of the day, Sentinel if you're using Microsoft's first party product. So it can be the second or third single biggest spending meter category in your Azure bill. Can easily cost you 15% of your total Azure charge. And if you don't know what to do about it, you are paying about twice the cost that you would have to.
Interesting. Second or third item on the Azure bill. I guess if you are security conscious, that's probably going to be the case. And Sentinel and log analytics. Can you quickly explain to us why they're together? How does this work? Why do we need to look at them both at the same time?
Yes. So log analytics is the basic platform Microsoft is using to ingest all your monitoring, telemetry, system event, etc. data. So what you're classically also pulling into a security solution, which you may already have been running in your on-prem environment, it needs to go into some data store. This is the log analytics workspace, and you can use log analytics by itself. For example, if you're collecting performance metrics from your virtual machines or from your app service plans, to understand how busy is your CPU, how much used is your memory, how many interactions do you have with your storage. This is all kept in the Azure metrics, but if you want to get your entire system environment into a single place to then ask it questions, this is what you can use a log analytics workspace for. So it has been initially created to ingest all kind of logging, telemetry, monitoring information. And log analytics was there first. So Microsoft already had log analytics in place for several years. And then due to, I guess, popular demand, they added a SIEM solution on top. So both SIEM and SOAR. Let me just quickly check what this exactly means to get the abbreviations right. Give me a second. I have to actually... Let's show our audience how I figure out what exactly Azure Sentinel does and what it means if we go over to that one. So whenever I need to look up something, and I also don't know everything by heart, it's next to impossible to do with all the data which is in Microsoft Learn. What we can do is we can simply do a search, Google, DuckDuckGo, anything that you want, which will explain what this one is. Now, one little hack, I'm here right now with a German environment. We can change the URL to be American, and now I've got it in the English language. You can do this for any other language out there. So if you want to speak French, you can just change the URL and you will get this whole page in French. So reading this out, Sentinel is a security information and event management solution. So this is the SIEM part. And it does security, orchestration, automation, and response, SOAR. So it basically is a tool which your security operations center, your SOC, can use in order to get information about things going wrong in your system environment, things happening in your system environment, and gives you a way to quickly respond to that. It's, at the end of the day, the big toolbox your security team will be using. And Microsoft has built this on top of a log analytic workspace. So again, you can have log analytics alone if you just want to get memory usage, CPU usage, disk usage, network usage. But if you want to analyze any kind of system events, security events, then you get log analytics with Sentinel on top.
So just trying to understand the components of this, what can affect the costs, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and especially tell us exactly then what particular parts of this we're going to discuss. So I understand to use log analytics, I need to have logging enabled. I need to have storage for the logs themselves. Then the log analytics workspace or whatever else, there are other components. Then Sentinel, and potentially, these days you can't avoid the acronym of AI. There must be somewhere some kind of AI involved. So what parts do you want to discuss today?
So I want to discuss the pricing. And if you just open another search here and we check for the different ways how you can consume Sentinel. Again, let's do a search for that one. And we can just start with the overview. So azure.microsoft.com, this is the high-level information like the fact sheets. There are also the learn.microsoft.com, which we will dive in later, where we get a whole lot of technical information, like your old O'Reilly books. But we will start off that one. In order to get the pricing which applies to you, you first should select the region, because Sentinel costs are slightly dependent on the region. If our audience, I guess, mostly sitting in Europe, correct me if I'm wrong, we can check for a European region like North Europe.
Actually, 75% of viewers on our channel are from the United States. So you're safe to stay in North America. But North Europe works. I mean, it's just you choose your region.
Exactly. You choose the region, you choose your currency. Now, the important thing which we have recently learned is that the prices for Sentinel are standardized on the US dollar. If we are scrolling down here a bit and we see a dollar cost per gigabyte, and now we are selecting, say, Canadian dollars, this cost here changes, and it will change on a month-by-month basis. So with the recent depreciation of the Canadian dollar against the US dollar, your cost for Sentinel actually went up, because you are always, at the end of the day, paying the US dollar price, and Microsoft adjusts this on a monthly cadence. If you're an enterprise agreement customer, then you have locked in a cost per gigabyte during your EA term. So this is an advantage of using the enterprise agreement. And today I want to talk about pay-as-you-go. I want to talk about commitment tiers. I want to talk about where are we pre-purchase plans, and basically explain you the lessons which we have learned along the lines. Of course, they are
amazing. Yeah. You feel free to begin with where you want to begin, and I'll just follow up with my questions.
Okay.
But I want to plug in here something. So what we discussed today here is what our company does. We sell savings through optimizations and negotiations, and Stefan is our cloud champion, as I said. So what he's going to be talking about is practical knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. It comes really right from the field. So what we see a whole lot of customers who are growing, I would say, organically into Sentinel. So you are bringing your workloads into the cloud. Eventually, the security team figures out that they need to get some security solution in place, unless they already have their own security solutions, which, of course, you can run in Azure. Nobody's forcing you to use Sentinel. But like with Azure Backup and Recovery, with other first-party services, it has become a more and more popular choice, which we see being used really in many, many places. And people, if they are starting to use this, are always on the pay-as-you-go tier. So in this case, we are still with US dollars. You are paying about $4.80 per gigabyte ingested. That means for all your log data, for all your events, for everything that you are pulling into the Sentinel space to then get the Sentinel analysis on top, you are paying this cost per gigabyte. The first and potentially biggest saving you can do is to not just log everything. So if you are doing, for example, verbose logging, or you are logging 1,000,000 times that a service has been stopped, rather than stopping after the third time, then you are paying the 1,000,000 log entries. And we have seen anomalies in the past where it was easily possible to spend more than $1,000 per day on Sentinel because you were logging millions and millions of times the same error messages. So this is already a system configuration improvement which you can make, which your engineers can take care of, where you don't even have to worry about commitment tiers and pre-purchase plans. It is simply to reduce the amount of gigabytes that you are ingesting, because this is really the all-important thing, is how many gigabytes do you ingest?
Wait. So is there a setting that needs to be enabled to reduce the amount of, for example, the same error going on and on and on and on? Can it be compressed into maybe one line saying this has been happening since yesterday?
Unfortunately, you would need an extra tool to that because, for example, a Windows event log would just keep on repeating you the same error. And if it happens every 5 seconds and you're getting, thousands of them throughout the day. So this is not so easy to do, but what you can implement, and this is a feature which we are not going to discuss in detail today, there are user-defined rules which you can use to filter out a good deal of the logging data. So you are still getting the log into your ingestion queue, but you are dropping them right in the pipeline before they even hit the log analytics workspace with Sentinel on top. And if you're not getting them into Log Analytics and Sentinel, you're not paying these $4.76 per gigabyte. So this is a configuration setting you can make if you know that there is some data which your systems are sending, but you don't need them because you're never going to act on them. You can basically, just like with a firewall, implement a drop rule, and it will drop this part of the logging data being sent your way or being sent Sentinel's way.
So that is its weak that can also be implemented. That's good. That's what I really wanted to understand. So explain to me, imagine I'm a 5-year-old. What is the licensing? What is the metric here? Is this just gigabytes? Is it storage gigabytes? Amount of analyzed logs? What are we talking about here? What is the price dependent upon?
It is purely the amount of gigabytes. So every event which you are saving will have some information: when the event was raised, where it was raised from. It will have an event text. So for example, your error message or your logging message or your warning message. Take this entire string and it has a number of bytes. And by having millions of these, you eventually get in the range of megabytes and gigabytes.
Right.
It's really, so it doesn't care about what you are getting in there. It simply counts the amount of gigabytes which you are transmitting. It's basically like your mobile phone plan, where your mobile phone provider doesn't care what you are using the gigabytes for, but it's ticking down for everything that you do online. Now, like with your mobile plan, initially you start with this pay-as-you-go, which is perfectly fine as you get started. But as you have a consistent usage of the Sentinel solution, which is on average going to be close to 100 gigabytes per day, or even going a little bit above 100 gigabytes per day, as you can see here, when you are making this commitment to Microsoft, which by the way is a monthly commitment, so you're not locked into this for a year or even 3 years, you can get a significant rebate. And this does not only work on the first 100 gigabytes per day, but if I, for example, consume 110 gigabytes in a given day, then I will be paying the $2.96 per gigabytes. If I'm consuming 500 gigabytes a day, I'll be paying the $2.96 per gigabytes if I made a 100 gigabyte per day reservation. On the other hand, if I'm often doing a 500 gigabytes per day consumption, I can go with an even higher rebate, but you see it's only 9% more. So if you have like one day a week where you consume a 500 gigabytes and all the rest of the time you're only consuming 300 gigabytes a day, you would be better off to go with the 300 gigabytes tier, which is giving you nearly the same per gigabyte price. And then one day a week, you are paying 200 gigabytes extra, because this is a minimum consumption. So even if I'm only using 200 gigabytes on a very, very slow Sunday, for example, I'm still going to pay these $1,265 per day.
That's a good point, by the way. I wanted to remind the audience that normally all the prepaid tariffs are put together with the expectation that clients will overcommit. There was a large research made on various mobile phone tariffs, for example, and what it showed is that people always take something more expensive they never use.
Yeah.
It's psychological. So
but the important difference
don't
between this
overcommit.
and the mobile phone one was, in the mobile phones, at least the ones I remember from continental Europe, is you were paying for your 5 gigabytes and you got 5G speed, and afterwards you were either getting super slow, or all of a sudden you had to pay like 9 cents per gigabyte per megabyte. So it became very expensive. Here it is not so. So here, if you are slotting in these $2.53 per gigabytes on a 500 gigabytes per day thing, okay, if you're only consuming 100 gigabytes per day, you are still paying these 1265. But even if you're going over and you consume, for example, 700 gigabytes during a very busy day, you are still paying these 253 per gigabyte. You are not paying the overage in the pay-as-you-go rate. So Microsoft is fairer than your mobile phone provider in this regard.
Okay. Yeah, I completely understand. But we're talking here about commitment tiers. You also mentioned pre-purchase plans. How are they different from this?
They're actually a fun one. So we had quite a lot of interesting initial challenges really understanding these. So let's scroll down a little further and see if I can explain this. And this is now getting a little bit arcane. So you will have costs hitting your Azure bill for Sentinel. It can be commitment tiers, it can be with the pay-as-you-go tier, doesn't really matter. And you are paying for these in US dollars. Now, what these pre-purchase plans allow you to do is they basically work like a Starbucks card. So you can, for example, take 100,000, they call it Sentinel commit units, which is basically US dollars. And you get 100,000 credits on your Starbucks Sentinel commit card, but you're only paying 78,000 US dollars for the 100,000 credits. Means this is a 22% discount. And then every one Sentinel commit unit equals $1 in a list which we have up here. So it would take 2.53 commit units for 1 gigabyte if you're on the 500 gigabytes per day tier. Means it's stacking your rebate.
This is amazing. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so you're basically getting the rebate here at first, so the 47% rebate over the $4.76. And then you would get another 22% rebate in the example which we had just made, giving you a total savings potential which can go above 55, 56% in total. So it actually allows you, as we promised in the beginning, to halve your cloud bill for that specific meter category. If you're right now consuming like 400, 500 gigabytes a day on the pay-as-you-go tier, you use this, and then you combine it together with the pre-purchase plan for an extra rebate. And if you're in a tier, you can actually take this one because it is lasting for a 12-month total. So you have 1 year to consume these 150,000 credits. Yeah, you are in the range of nearly 60% rebate.
Okay. And these are annual, and the commitment plans are monthly, so that needs to be taken also into account.
It works a little different. You have it works a little different than the 1 year annual reservations. The Starbucks card is only valid for a year. So if you have bought this one on the 1st of January, and by the 31st of December, you have only used 130,000 out of the 150,000 credits, you lose the remainder of the credits. But you can burn through these in 2 months if you want to, and then just buy the next one.
A commitment is so this is also a commitment in a sense. Okay. Yeah. Commitment is a commitment. You didn't use it. Sorry, it's gone. Yes. these days we're not only managing costs, we're also managing commitments. Amazing world we're living in, to be honest. Can you get those on an enterprise agreement?
Oh, absolutely. You can, as far as I know, get them on any plan. Now, with the enterprise agreement, I would like to throw out one word of warning, because this is a surprise that we encountered with a customer who, due to adopting E5 all across the board, Microsoft made a concession for them, giving them a above average rebate on their Sentinel tiers. So on these commitment tiers, which we saw up there, means they didn't get the cost which we see here, but they actually had a more favorable cost. And now we said that the pre-purchase plans, they work like a reservation. And if we do a check, how do Azure reservations work? I would like to point out something super, super, super important. If I find the right one, let's hop over from this search to Google for a second.
Are you trying to say that Microsoft promises when you are on an enterprise agreement to apply the highest available discount on reservations?
I'm getting there because this was an assumption which I initially had.
Okay.
But
well,
actually,
for reservations,
it's
not an assumption, it's a promise. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So let's see if I can find this one.
Can you please make it larger with Control Plus? Because I think on if somebody watches this on a small monitor, they won't be able to even see any of the smallest.
Yes, I will do this in a second. Give me one moment to please find the right page. Sorry there. I'm not getting the right one here. Is it this one?
Honestly,
I cannot find this page for the living right now, but what I can tell you is that if you're buying a reservation, and I can provide the link to this one later on to have this in the comments for this live,
we'll
it actually replaces the cost which you have on your pay-as-you-go. So this means if your reservation is, or if your pay-as-you-go rebate is higher than the reservation rebate, you end up paying more. So Microsoft, and I think this is the same on AWS and Google, but please correct me if I'm wrong and they are doing this differently. If you have a pay-as-you-go cost, which may be discounted through an enterprise agreement, a special deal, your Mac discount, and then you are buying a reservation, the reservation actually is applied based on the retail pay-as-you-go cost. And if the reservation discount is lower, then you are paying more. And one example where this can strike you is if you're going to the Azure pricing calculator. I'm going to show you an example. This search page here is getting me nuts. Here we go. So let's take one example, app services. If we are using premium app services and you see there's a savings plan option or as a reservation options, and as far as I know, they both work the same. So these costs, right now there's a pay-as-you-go cost of $122 a month for the premium app service plan. If you have, for example, a 25% rebate on your enterprise agreement with your Mac because you committed to a large enough amount, or let's make it even more interesting, a 30% rebate, then you would be paying about $90-ish for this service. If you buy a reservation, you would be paying the reservation amount, even if your pay-as-you-go amount would be lower.
Okay.
And with the reservation, I mean, you at least can still select that you are using these, but now it gets really interesting with the savings plan, which if you have a big enough savings plan is trying to auto-apply itself to all the resources it can cover. And if you initially start like with a 1-year savings plan, it can well end up that the savings plan finds that it can apply itself to an app service plan like this one here for a 13% discount, overriding a potentially higher discount which you're getting through your commitments. So this is a very interesting one. We have it confirmed that it works like this on the reservations. I do not yet have it confirmed on the savings plans. So if you are in a setup where you have a 30% or higher rebate, please do us a favor and check if you're running a savings plan, if you're actually getting the 30% rebate or if you're getting like the 13 or only 24% rebate on your app service plans. It won't be an issue on your virtual machines because there the savings plan savings are way higher. But on these services, you may actually be ending up to pay more by choosing a savings plan.
That's a good note. Yeah, you can accidentally increase your expenses. That's okay. Interesting. If somebody wants to contradict these words because that doesn't seem fair, please let us know. There are comments, there are DMs. And I want to remind you, this is live, unless you're watching the recording. This is live, so you can ask your questions in the chat. Good. So effectively, this all comes down to properly managing what do they call pre-purchase plans and commitments, and making sure you don't overcommit and you're on the right tier. It doesn't seem like rocket science. And does the Azure Advisor give these recommendations?
No, it does not, unfortunately. This is the type of recommendation which you do not see.
I wonder why. Okay, fine. Then we have Azure Copilot. Does Azure Copilot give these recommendations?
Unfortunately, no. Azure Copilot, as far as we can tell, is based on the Azure Advisor API for recommendations. So it is giving you a more interactive interface for the recommendations which you see on Azure Advisor, but it does not bring any new tricks to the board at this point. So also there, you very likely won't be seeing this for the foreseeable future. Microsoft keeps on building and expanding, and they keep on adding more. They recently added, for example, recommendations to the Azure Advisor. If you are using an oversized virtual machine, they recommend you to reduce the size of the virtual machine. So they keep on adding new features, but something as deep as if the combination of your enterprise and Mac discounts for Sentinel on log analytics with commitment tiers actually makes it worth to buy a pre-purchase plan, we haven't seen that one yet. But then the pre-purchase plans only came out last year, so they are still reasonably fresh off the press.
So Microsoft's own tools don't recommend this. Maybe one day will, but at this point in time, there's nothing. What about if I have a tool like Cloud Ability or similar? Do you know of any FinOps tools that already know how to optimize Sentinel costs? Because, I mean, obviously, if you're an enterprise, you probably have a tool like this. You probably, or at least consider buying something like it. What's your experience there?
So we see many large enterprises using tools like this, and it makes perfect sense because these tools provide a very important use case. They provide cost transparency and they give you a way to manage your costs. Means if you're running on multiple clouds, these tools give you a single pane of view into your multiple clouds. You do not have to go to the Azure portal, to the AWS portal, to the Google portal to in different ways get to your respective costs, but they are able to pull all this data in. They had to map it to a common data model. Now with the FinOps focus, the FinOps open cost and usage specification, this mapping to a common data model problem has been removed. So now everybody can pretty easily get their core cost information from these three clouds plus OCI. So Oracle is also participating in this standard altogether. And this was initially one of the major selling features of these cost management platforms. They then, over time, began to add cost optimization features, but the cost optimization features are maybe a little better than what you get out of the native toolings. But we have seen so far mostly recommendations about choose a different virtual machine, choose a different type of storage, which are all valuable recommendations, but we haven't seen one going deep into log analytics yet. And I mean, let's be honest, if you're thinking about what their business model is, I also don't think they will ever be all out, balls to the walls about reducing your cost in the cloud. Because the cost management tools I have seen so far, they take a percentage of the cost under management. If they reduce the cost under management by 50%, they would halve their revenue. So
that seems fair. Yeah. Sorry, I can't. You know me. I sometimes try and hold myself from making cheeky comments, but
I think you
challenging.
just need to understand where the incentives are and then choose tooling accordingly. I mean, if you want to manage your costs and you want to allocate a cost to a very complex showback, chargeback structure in your company, you need to bill out these costs because you're an intermediary. Then these tools serve an absolutely invaluable purpose. They
Yeah.
charge a percentage for it, but they give you some means to reduce your costs. So they probably, at the end of the day, you are paying the same after you adopted these tools because they help you save a bit of money, they cost you a bit of money, so it's kind of a wash. But this is really the purpose they have been built for you to manage your cloud cost. Now, a lot of people have
To
asked
manage,
them,
not to
can you also
save.
save costs? And they went like, yeah, sure, we can do, but actually we don't want to.
Yeah. Or if a tool charges you on your consumption, then what's the incentive for them to reduce your consumption? Truly, that's
Keep you
obvious.
paying customer, just enough to retain you.
We are not implying that that's a bad practice, but make it clear to yourselves, what you're dependent upon. To be honest, in my experience, I've seen many tools that promise managing costs or reducing costs or even managing the estate. None of those have ever worked without a clever human being that knows what to do. It's never a push of a button and suddenly you're in a new bright and shiny world with fewer expenses because a tool told you to do something. So
And
you need to understand what you're doing. And this leads me to my question.
Mhm.
Imagine I'm here on this live watching it. I've never seen this before. This is all completely new to me. How am I supposed to sort this all out?
You are probably going to feel like if you have just heard about a game called chess and read about what all the different figures do, and then you're going to a chess club and sitting down against somebody who has already been playing chess for many, many, many years, maybe the person who designed a chess game. That would be your cloud provider. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they designed chess. And depending on how deep you are into the economical aspect, and this is something I also want to stress. So we see a lot of excellent engineers who are doing the greatest work, which is absolutely blowing me away, building solutions where we can automate the rollout of an entire system environment on the press of a button. Magnificent. I have absolutely no friggin' clue how they are doing this kind of magic. But then I'm looking at the resource selection. I'm asking, why are you using these resources? You know that there are other ones which give you a better price per cost, performance per cost. And they go like, no. And I'm like, okay, this is this new complexity which the cloud introduced, which we are seeing a lot. And even some of the best technical teams simply not bend their mind around because like we are showing here, and let me hop back to what you need to look at when you are, for example, building a virtual machine. Let's just add this to show why this is so difficult. So you have a virtual machine. Okay, the region selection is probably reasonably easy, but then you've got this amount of instance series to pick from. And a lot of people simply choose the default, which is made available. And yeah, let me make this a little bigger so it's easier for the audience to read. So they are taking a virtual machine out of, oh God, now it's no longer the original one because now you actually need to select the right series, not to get totally confused. Out of that, and they take, for example, this virtual machine here. Hint, the version 3 is one which you absolutely shouldn't be using anymore. Same for the version 4 on AWS. These just got the switch over from getting one core assigned to a virtual CPU to getting a hyperthread assigned to a vCPU. So the performance is about 60% of the version 2, and it took until version 5 in Azure, version 6 in AWS for the performance to return to the generation one before. AKA, you can get this VM with half the number of CPUs with basically the same performance and a much lower cost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this
we
is the
covered that.
complexity they don't understand. And then it's licenses, and then you add disks, and then you add storage transactions, and then you add bandwidth. And a lot of people just go like, what the hell?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I remember when I saw it for the first time, I thought cloud is easy. You just buy a virtual machine. No, it's much more complex.
Yeah.
Still, I mean, you can probably figure it out. So I want to summarize what you said about Sentinel, and please listen to what I'm patiently to what I'm going to say, even if I'm talking bollocks. And correct me if my understanding isn't correct, or just confirm my assumptions. So I'm dealing with Sentinel, and I want to take costs under control. So I need to think about technical implementations of reducing the amount of logs. That's something I think I would look into. But that's not the first thing. If I'm a procurement person or I'm just a FinOpser, it's probably not something that I can do. Um, and and then if we only talk about savings, what are they called? Pre-purchase plans and commitment tiers, and also pay-as-you-go rebates on the market and saving plans. We have also saving plans. So effectively, what I would do, I would look into my consumption and calculate the average, go a little bit below the average, and choose a commitment plan. Plus, based on that commitment, I would look into buying that annual pre-purchase plan. That would be also somewhere along those lines, maybe a little bit lower than that, just in case, not to overcommit, because overages, as we've seen, they're not that bad. And but before I flip the switch, I then need to log into my Azure pricing calculator with my corporate account so I can see my discounts, and just in case compare it with my pay-as-you-go rates. Is it what you would suggest doing? Am I correct?
Yeah, you have the process absolutely nailed out. And let's be honest, if you don't want to wade through this mess, reports like getting your discounts displayed to you so that you are seeing what are your highest rebated SKUs, what are your lowest rebated SKUs. Because even if you, for example, Microsoft tells you, hey, you get a 10% discount, there may be subtle differences. You may have a little more than 10% on some, you may have a little less than 10% on some. And then based on the agreements that you make, like, for example, fully adopting E5, going Copilot for your entire organization, doing a big Microsoft Fabric thing. You may get some extra concessions, so Microsoft is taking a few of your key resources and rebates them more than average for the next EA term. By the way, it's usually for an EA term, so they probably won't extend this thing when your EA renews. So if you get a very, very high rebate, maybe you want to have a 5-year EA instead of a 3-year EA. Just thinking.
Mm.
We'll
Well,
keep this for longer.
there are
So
also declining rebates sometimes when you get something higher in the first year, and then kind of your price goes up
yes.
in little steps. So by the end of the enterprise agreement, it's a completely different
Yes. So at
discount
the
or
end of the
rebate.
day, when you are getting to that fancier level, you likely need some sort of a tool to support your work, your FinOps analysis. And there are several tools out there which you can choose. I mean, at the end of the day, as a good FinOps person, you can make any of the cost management tools work and do your bidding and help you get these visualizations out, because they will pull in the data. You will be able to create your own dashboards. Or what you can do is, if you want to go open source, there's one solution which we like a lot. It is the Azure FinOps Toolkit from Microsoft, which is released under an MIT license. You can even build your own product from that and then sell it in the marketplace. And what it does, it is using the Azure Data Explorer, and will eventually begin using Microsoft Fabric to pull in all the FinOps focused data, provide a unified view on top, which even goes then across new releases of the focus standard which come out. And you can run your dashboards, your queries, your data insights, your analysis, your alerting, anomaly management, all that kind of stuff on top of that, build it on top of this. Or you can take the product which we built, which is exactly that. We productized all our things which we have been doing over the past years. We basically optimized Azure from beginning to end multiple times over now. And everything we did, we built on top of an Azure Data Explorer initially. We have now ported it to the FinOps Toolkit. And we can make this entire thing available to deploy right in your tenant to give you the insight and the tooling that you need to either do it yourself or let us do it for you.
If you didn't understand what just happened, Stefan just said that we have a service with a tool that includes that advisory also in the tool. Thank you, Stefan, for that. So I guess the topic isn't that long. What my takeaway from it is Sentinel is expensive, can be second or third item on the bill if you are conscious about your security. It's metered on gigabytes. It's cost management. It is not rocket science, but more as a complicated game of chess. So there are a few moving parts. I need to watch out for those moving parts, expiring EAs. Very usual for the cloud era. And Stefan, thank you very much for, even I learned something today that I didn't know. Thanks for that
for
as
really
well.
diving in the deep end. You got me on my technical foot today.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we didn't go too deep into discussing different virtual machines. You mentioned them, by the way. If this live session is interesting to you, and whether you're watching recording or live, check out the other Azure-related episodes that we had on SAMexpert TV before with Stefan, because there's more. If you want to learn more about how to reduce your costs, sometimes it's very, very technical, but you can't avoid it. Yeah. We have that sorted for you. And if you have any questions about what you want to ask, any suggestions what you want us to review, you know where to find us. It's very easy.
And before we log off, Sasha, I did find the line I wanted to show our audience earlier about how the reservation discount is applied. If you could just bring my screen back up again. So it is how a reservation discount is applied. I want a slightly wrong search term. And if we scroll here, this is the section which we need to look at. It says, when you purchase a reservation, the benefit is applied at reservation prices. On rare occasions, you might have some pay-as-you-go rates that are lower than the reservation rate. In these cases, Azure uses the reservation rate to apply benefit. That's the sentence.
Worrying, and that's not public knowledge. I want to reiterate something that I keep repeating in many of our videos is be careful with learn.microsoft.com says, because although it's hosted on the Microsoft Zone domain, that is not an official Microsoft document. This website does not represent official documents. Still, if you find something that triggers your interest or worries you, like this statement, for example, please check, please verify, call your Microsoft representative, call your consultants, and let's discuss this. Yeah. But one thing I want to warn you again about learn.microsoft.com is that sometimes information there may be incorrect. It's as bad as that.
This information here is correct. We were able to verify this, and the rare occasion actually did apply, and the result was that a lower cost due to a higher rebate was replaced with a rebate coming from the reservation, which turned out to be more costly throughout the reservations term, which in this case was the pre-purchase plan. So yes, you can actually hurt yourself by trying to do the right thing. It is indeed a rare occasion. This was the first time this has happened in our career of now doing this for several years. But still, when it does strike you, you are looking at this and you are feeling a little shell-shocked. But again, you don't need to make these mistakes. Let us help you not doing these mistakes in the first place. Benefit from our learning.
Fantastic. And by the way, if you want to learn about what we do, the QR code is here. It'll take you to our website. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being with us today in our episode of SAMexpert TV. Please come back. We usually have live sessions, not every Wednesday, but we try to. to be every Wednesday. You can always check the upcoming lives, which we announce up front usually on our LinkedIn page and on our YouTube channel. And we'll see you again. I hope so. And I hope you learned something today. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.